I'm at the Aircraft Systems and Testing Establishment in Bengaluru. It's an important institution for induction of armaments, aircraft, and for testing, as well as training test pilots as well as test engineers for certification as well as induction of equipment into the Indian Air Force. What does it do? How was it established? Why it is an important part of the chain in the procurement and the journey for Atmanirbharta that the Indian Air Force has undertaken is something that we are going to learn today from its commandant, AVM Tejpal Singh, who's been here for some time, has himself been a test pilot, and of course has had a long service in the Air Force. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Pleasure to have you here.
So we are in this now the compound of ASTE. Tell us a bit about when did it start, what was the purpose, what was the objective when it was started?
Yeah, so this journey started immediately after independence. So after getting independent in 1947, 1948 we formed the armament testing unit in Kanpur because we realized there is a lot of weapons that need to be tested. And slowly as we kept moving forward, we realized that there are aircraft to be tested, there are other systems to be tested. So it became the armament and aircraft and armament testing unit in 1957 and continued to remain in Kanpur. And slowly kept evolving. Then obviously during the period of the wars, 62, 65, 71, a lot more testing happened. And immediately after 71, this unit was rechristened as the Aircraft and Systems Testing Establishment, ASTE, in 72. And 73, we moved here to Bangalore and became ASTE in its current form.
Lovely campus. And
Thank you.
So what is the basic function that you all do here?
So our role starts right from the time the Air Force decides to procure a system. So in defining the operational requirements, the air staff qualitative requirements, ASQRs, we start helping Air Headquarters formulate the ASQRs and ORs. And thereafter, once whoever is decided as the production partner, whoever is developing the system, it could be DRDO, DPSU, private sector, then the system comes to us for testing. So nothing gets inducted into the Air Force without having been tested and qualified by us. And based on our recommendation, the Air Force decides whether to induct that system or not.
Okay, and it's not just say weapons or sensors or thing, but even the entire aircraft when it flies. Initially, you have to test that.
It's the entire gamut. So it could be from a small LRU, a small system, to a complete weapon system. It could be a radar, it could be an avionic system, or it could be like a complete aircraft. For example, the Saras, all the flight testing was done by us. And all other platforms which are being tested across the board, while not necessarily being flown by AST, but all the test crew who are flying are alma mater of AST. Because other than flight testing, AST does an important role of training test crews. So we have the Air Force Test Pilot School, which trains the flight test engineers and the test pilots.
You would have trained here also.
Yes, I did the course in 2000, so it's been almost 24 years since I did the course. Yes.
And when you got trained here, which were the aircraft that you tested?
During the course itself, you fly about 11, 12 different types of aircraft.
Really?
Yes, because that is the actually hallmark of a test crew, that he or she should be able to adapt to a foreign cockpit in the shortest possible time. And that is one of the main criteria which is used to select an officer to undergo this course. And thereafter, I was very lucky. We were upgrading the MiG-21, the Bison. I flew a lot of trials on that. Then that is the time we inducted the Su-30 MKI. So a lot of initial testing of the Su-30 was done by me.
So in this establishment, all kinds of aircraft come.
Yes, so you will see it on the tarmac. You will not find a tarmac like this anywhere in the Air Force. You will have aircraft of all sizes and shapes. Because not only are they flown for trials, but also for the school. Like I said, we try and expose the student test crew to as many different types as possible. Western and Russian, so they get to see
I think it's
philosophy.
A unique position for
India. Yes.
So let's see the tarmac.
Yes.
So like you were talking about various aircraft, I can see here. I mean, you got a microlight here, you got a small.
You got a Chetak there, and this is of course our indigenous advanced light helicopter, the wheeled version. So the aim is that all these aircraft, so for the test crew who are doing the course,
Right.
it is a phenomenal exposure for them. And in fact, when we have people from foreign test pilot schools coming, this is the envy for them. They feel very envious that we have exposure to such different types of aircraft.
Exactly. So, like we were talking, that Indian Air Force has this mix of Western technology as well as so much of Russian legacy and modern aircraft.
Right.
So, how do you then combine the requirements of the two different streams? Really?
Yes. So that is one of the biggest challenges for us when we want to integrate a new system. When you're integrating a Western system on a Russian platform and vice versa, that is the challenge for us. So that is where we work a lot closely along with the Software Development Institute, where you'll be going later. And we sit and make the interfaces so that we can overcome these challenges. And of course, today the human-machine interface has become very, very complex. So that we try and keep common as far as various platforms are concerned, so that when a pilot has to switch from one platform to the other, the HMI doesn't change for him as much.
Okay, but just to understand for our viewers, you not only test the flying abilities, but also when you integrate, let's say, a new weapon,
Correct.
A missile, let's say.
Right.
What else? What are the steps you take for testing a missile to be integrated with the aircraft?
So the first step is, of course, the missile should be able to fit on the aircraft. So you need to do ground adaptation.
Right.
Can it be fitted on the aircraft? Does it have adequate clearances and safeties?
Right.
Then we, have to fly the weapon in the entire envelope of the aircraft.
Okay.
That the weapon can sustain the pressures, the vibrations, the environmental factors, which it will encounter in the entire envelope of the aircraft.
Right.
Full max speed, Mach numbers, altitude, etc.
Right.
The third step is to see that the missile, when I drop it, it can separate cleanly from the aircraft. That is the very critical. Yes, so there we use high-speed cameras, etc.
Right.
We use chase aircraft, because we need to make sure that the weapon separates cleanly from the aircraft without interfering with any part of the aircraft.
Right.
And the final is, of course, doing a live release to check its accuracy, the operations of the warhead. So these are the various steps that we have to do to clear every weapon on each aircraft.
So, but do you do ground testing also, CFD?
Yes.
Or something of
so
that,
normally,
simulation?
So normally the CFDs and all are done by the designer itself.
Right.
So whether if it's a DRDO lab or a private sector lab, they would have done all the CFDs and present it to us.
Okay.
We don't do the CFD ourselves, though we do limited CFD, but most of the ground checks of CFD, etc. are done by the vendor and provided to us.
Okay. And then you start doing the drop test, the integration, then the firing. Also,
Correct.
How about the ability for the aircraft computer mission? I mean, the mission computer that you have on board.
Correct.
It could be say a Russian mission computer, but your weapon could be Israeli or indigenous Indian weapon. How do you do that?
So that is where now we have slowly started getting visibility. So that's where we work very closely with Software Development Institute, SDI. For example, the Su-30. Now we've been doing integration for almost 20 years. So we've got visibility into the mission computer.
Right.
And now we have also started putting our own mission computers so that the hardware and software is totally ours.
Okay.
So I can integrate any weapon, any system now that much easier. Then HAL, of course, like the Jaguar is all the upgrades of the Jaguar have been done by HAL. So we have full visibility into the mission computer, etc. So that way, in that sense, it's becoming a little easier. But yes, that remains a major challenge on integrating system. And today you see all the systems, weapons are being developed indigenously, either by DRDO or by private sector. So I have full information, so that becomes that much easier to integrate onto an aircraft.
And so when you say indigenous weapons, there are mostly DRDO, but some private players have also started coming.
Yes, in fact, it's very private sector has started. We've done ground tests, and we have a private vendor today whose weapon is actually flying on the aircraft.
Right.
So yes, the private sector growth is phenomenal. And we are doing a lot of hand holding for the private sector, because for them it's a new job. While designing the store is only just one part of the job.
Right.
Doing certification, integration on an aircraft, that is the next step, and that's where we are doing a lot of hand holding for the private sector.
So what would you say is the contribution of ASTE in the journey towards Atmanirbharta? Because that is one of the key areas that the government and the three services are looking for going forward. How would you encourage private sector, smaller players? How are you doing their handholding?
Yeah. So, like I said, 1948 itself, we've started getting into this business of self-reliance.
Right.
And while in the initial years, most of the trials were for DRDO developed products
Sure.
or DPSUs, and of course from foreign.
Right.
Over the past few years, this focus has totally shifted.
Correct.
You know, so Atmanirbharta or self-reliance has been part of our game for many, many years. In
Yes.
fact, ASTE celebrated its golden jubilee as ASTE in 2022.
Right.
And today, what we find is that the number of private players are increasing every day. And for them, it's a new area. You know, aerospace, the area is not very easy to get into.
Sure.
A lot of activity, a lot of qualification, certification.
Sure.
So we are helping them first is to understand the qualification and certification process itself,
Right.
so that they don't get stuck at some stage. Thereafter, they need to do a lot of tests. Those facilities are expensive. Some of those facilities are available with us.
Right.
So we are giving them access to those facilities through air headquarters. We are telling them, please come to us. Wherever we can help you, we'll do it.
Okay.
And all this is being done on a gratis basis.
Right.
And also to help them understand this whole process of qualification, certification, flight testing. In January this year, we did the first ever test crew and industry interaction seminar here in Bangalore in
That's
ASTE.
wonderful, because other things keep happening.
Yes.
But
yeah.
this one probably is one of the first ones.
Yes, so this was the first time. So we had industry, we had DRDO, DPSUs, private sector,
Right.
everybody coming. We had talks by various people.
Right.
So to make them understand what is ASTE all about,
Correct.
and how can we help them in this process of
Actually, if
Atmanirbharta.
they had not known, they wouldn't come here.
Exactly.
And,
Yes.
now that you've done this,
Yes.
but also you work very closely with CEMILAC, the
Very
DRDO
true, yes.
testing and certification.
Correct.
Certification
Yes.
agency.
Yes.
How does that interface work?
So that is, see, CEMILAC and RCMATs, regional RCMA centers are very, very closely intertwined with us, because for every test, I need a flight clearance from him.
Correct.
So the vendor will come with all his documentation. We will do all our ground tests,
Right.
and all these reports will be submitted to CEMILAC for him to issue the flight clearance.
Okay.
Only based on which I can start doing my experimental flight testing.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of it, once I finish everything, all the reports go back to him,
Right.
and then he gives the fleet clearance for the entire fleet to be modified.
Right.
So the interface between CEMILAC and us is very, very strong.
And it's in Bangalore.
It's in Bangalore,
not very
yes.
far from
Yeah.
here.
And that is one of the reasons the ASTE was in Bangalore,
Was in
because
Bangalore,
it is the aerospace hub of India.
Absolutely. So also this establishment ASTE would have been a major part of the journey of the LCA.
Yes.
In what way did it start? Because most of the test pilots on LCA were also products of
True.
ASTE and the school here, the test pilot school. So if you can tell us how you have contributed to the LCA journey.
Right. So LCA, as you are aware, when the LCA was being developed, the National Flight Test Center was set up,
Right.
and which is across the runway from us.
Correct.
But all the test crew who are there in the National Flight Test Center are their alma mater is ASTE.
Right.
They are graduates of the Air Force Test Pilot School. They've done a lot of testing in ASTE before they've migrated to NFTC.
Right.
So even the first flight was done by Venkana Kotial and everybody else who's there.
Sure.
And thereafter, we also have a prototype test squadron in ASTE,
Okay.
which is involved with all prototypes. So whether it is flying or whether it is just being part of discussions, design, etc.
Right.
We are involved. Even today, we are getting involved with the LCA Mark 1A, Mark 2, the AMCA,
Okay.
and the helicopter programs.
Even at the conceptual stage.
At the
itself.
conceptual stage, yes. So we are starting to we contribute to them right from that time onwards. And so that is, and we can stay part of the design and development process throughout.
Right.
And in the future, we hope to be part of the flight testing also of the Mark 2 and the AMCA.
Right. And so LCA Mark 1, of course, I mean, you've tested it.
Yes.
HAL is right across, as we can see.
That's right.
And HAL does the flight tests for LCA, but it also does a lot of upgrades and overhauls
Yes.
for the aircraft that are already in service.
True.
Jaguars, MiGs, and even Sukhois, I suppose.
Correct.
So that how do you work with them?
Yeah, so for example, they did the Jaguar upgrade from the Darren 1 to Darren 2, Darren 2 to Darren 3. So a lot of flight testing was done by us.
Right.
So there was a close interface between us. Designing the human-machine interface, we were very closely involved.
Okay.
Our test pilots were involved, our test engineers were involved. So the entire HMI was developed by us,
Right.
implemented by HAL. And then when it came to flight testing, we were integral part of the flight testing.
Okay.
Before it was cleared for fleet modification.
Right.
And similarly, now the Su-30 upgrade, HAL is the lead again. We are very, very closely involved, and there will be a project management team of which there will be test crew who will be part of that team.
I see. And then when all the learnings, how do you document them? Because that is also important for
Yes,
continuity.
yes, that's true. So we have a very, very formalized report writing process. There is a format defined, so every report looks the same.
Okay.
So it's a very standard format. The reports are sent. They are archived in headquarters. Plus we have a center here where we archive it.
Right.
And now we are in the process of digitizing the whole thing, so that access becomes easier. But they are all archived here, and you will find reports here from 1950s onwards
Oh, I
also.
see.
Typewritten in those days.
Right.
Of course, today we all have computers.
Yes.
But yes, there is a huge archiving process which goes on.
And so, because you also have concurrently the responsibility to run the Air Force Test Pilot School.
Correct.
So there again, this must be very helpful when all these lessons are learned.
Yes.
And all the innovations and things that must be happening during testing.
And in fact, during the course, they are taught. While they don't get access to our reports because we want them to learn their own, but that is where they are told. They are taught how to analyze data, how to convert their data into tangible results, then how to write a report. So all this is taught to them so that when they come to the flight test squadron, they are able to implement it in the real world.
Okay. So when you do this, we'll go to the school, of course,
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yes,
we'll talk about that. But from the graduates from that school, those who graduate from that school, it's a mix of engineers and pilots.
Yes, right? Yes.
And
so,
they then go to different streams?
Yes. So we run a course for, we call them experimental test pilots and flight test engineers.
Okay.
And basic streams are fixed wing and rotary wing. So you have fixed wing flight test pilots and engineers and rotary wing test pilots and engineers. That is the basic differentiation.
Okay.
And today we are very happy that we also have 4 women flight test engineers, with the first one graduating about 4 years ago and the last one graduated in May this year.
I see.
So we have 4 of them here involved in all the trials also.
Right. So what is this aircraft?
So this is the Kiran Mark 1.
Okay.
So we are still flying it.
Exactly.
And this is used extensively for the school, for the exercises in the school.
Okay.
So the trainee officers who come for the course fly this. They'll do a lot of trials on this, including spin testing. And in the spin testing, we use telemetry because we do spins which normal field pilots don't do.
Okay.
So we use the telemetry. So this is one of the workhorses for the course itself.
Yeah, because this is rarely sighted anywhere
Yes,
else.
yes. So this is a training aircraft which is used extensively in the course.
Yeah, exactly. And you also have a telemetry school here.
We have a telemetry station which is behind next to the school. I'll show you. We have a telemetry station. Yes.
So this must be one of the, again, in India there must be very few in the Air Force itself.
Yeah, in telemetry wise, we are the only Air Force unit which has.
Right.
Of course, NFTC has its own telemetry, HL has its own telemetry, but yes, in the Air Force, we are the only ones.
Right. And then of course you have the Sukhoi.
Yeah. So this is the Jaguars. So they are here for various trials.
Correct.
We are doing some weapon trials. And today there is a lot of focus on indigenizing various spares and LRUs.
Okay.
So our BRDs, our base report depots are indigenizing a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So depending on the complexity of the system, some of it they do it themselves.
Right.
Others come to us for flight testing before they are cleared for use in the field.
Use in the field.
Yeah.
But these are in-service aircraft.
These are in-service aircraft, but modified. They are not like the normal aircraft which are there in the squadron. They have been modified in some way. So only a test crew can fly it.
Okay.
These cannot be cleared for the line pilots to fly because they have certain modifications which are not cleared for field use yet.
Right. No. So there must be a lot of interface between air headquarters, various squadrons, various units that are deployed elsewhere.
True.
And then do you also populate these lessons and innovations to the operational squadrons?
Yes. So what we do is at the end of each trial, once the trial is complete and the system has been recommended for field use, we write down the standard operating procedures. So those are then vetted by air headquarters, and based on that, the field unit starts to exploit that system. So whether it is for the ground crew or for the pilots, all the SOPs are made here, and then they are given to air headquarters so that they can be disseminated to the squadron. So based on that, they will start exploiting the system.
Very good system. Like, you start from here, then you give it to air headquarters, then they disseminate it downwards to the units.
Yes. So for example, software defined radio wiki. So now we have integrated it. So we make a full SOP on how the system is to be used because the line pilot hasn't seen it yet. And we also do training for them. If required, we go to the field units, we hold training classes, etc. to tell them about the system, how it's to be used. And based on that, they start to exploit it in the field.
So before we go to the test pilot school and other units, there's one final thought here. The ASTE's role is critical because unlike the other two services, especially the army, where you can switch off a tank somewhere, you can stop a vehicle somewhere to test if it's not sort of up to the mark. In this, you can't do it. So how critical and like when do you make it sure that this is worthy of flying an aircraft, or the system that has been integrated is worthy of being taken to the field unit?
Yeah. So the first part is before we flight tested it ourselves.
Okay.
That's why the number of tests, the qualification, the certification which is required on ground is extensive.
Right.
So every store has done shock, vibration, environmental. Unless all those tests are cleared, RCMA or CEMELAC will not give us the flight clearance. So that is the first step.
Okay.
And thereafter, of course, during the testing process, we, like I said, for a weapon, we see that separation is safe.
Yeah.
There are MIL standards, there are MIL specs which are defined. So the weapon has to clear all of them before I will allow it to be cleared for field use. And of course, it has to meet the performance specs which have been specified in the ASQRs given by headquarters.
Sure.
If it is not meeting the performance specs in terms of accuracy, range, or whatever be the case, again it will not get cleared for field use.
Right, because the parameters and the conditions would differ every time.
Exactly.
Suppose an aircraft takes off from Falodi in Rajasthan,
Right.
and then goes
Yes.
to high altitude in Ladakh.
Correct.
It has to withstand both,
Yeah,
right?
so that's why the airborne stores you will find have to be certified from say -50 to +70 degrees centigrade. So those are the challenges for a designer, that his system should be able to operate in that
It
wide
has to be
band
that
of
rugged.
Exactly. Yes.
So, and you test all that.
Exactly. It's all tested both on ground and in air.
So we are in this test pilot school, is it?
Yes, the Air Force Test Pilot School. Yes.
And who's this?
This is Group Captain Suranjan Das. He was the chief test pilot in HAL. We did a lot of the HF-24 Marut testing. And our graduation dinner is named after him. It's called the Suranjan Das dinner when the student test pilots and test engineers graduate, which normally happens in the third week of May.
I see. Yeah. And how many of them graduate in one course?
Normally every year we train about 18, both flight test pilots, and about 12 test pilots and about 6 flight test engineers.
I see.
Both fixed wing and rotary wing combined.
Combined. And when you select the people to join this course, what is the process?
So it's a very arduous process for them. Firstly, they have to volunteer for it. Then they come here. There is a written test on maths and aerodynamics, etc.
Right.
And then they do a viva, they do a presentation. But the most critical aspect which we check is their adaptability and their ability to adapt to a foreign cockpit. So they are made to fly 2 aircraft which they have never flown ever earlier in their service. They fly obviously with an instructor, but we are basically checking that he is able to adapt to a foreign cockpit and be able to do a task which is given to him in that foreign cockpit. That forms a major chunk of his selection.
I see.
And of course, we are training officers from Air Force, Army, Navy, and DRDO. So it's a tri-services. Yes.
And this is the only school.
It's only school, and it's only amongst the 8 recognized schools in the world. There are only 8 such schools that are recognized in the world, which are recognized by the Society of Experimental Test Pilots and the Society of Flight Test Engineers, and we are one of them.
Okay. So what do we see here?
So we can go here to the so basically we try. There are classrooms on top which are like any normal, but those are smart classrooms.
Yeah, sure.
But we have created a lot of simulators for them to learn about handling the aircraft, where we do a lot of changes to the handling qualities of the aircraft. So we have created various simulators like this. This is a handling quality simulator for rotary wing pilots and flight test engineers, where I can tweak the handling qualities of a helicopter. So he can know what is a good handling quality and what is a bad handling quality. So tomorrow when he has to do a testing in the real world, he knows that this is not a good handling quality, this needs to be tweaked. So this is what they are checked. And all trials, there's a unique thing in ASTE, it is a team. There is no trial which can be done without a team. A team of a flight test pilot and a flight test engineer has to be a team to do the trial. So that's why normally he'll sit here, the flight test engineer will sit here, and he'll keep doing tweaks and ask him for his feedback.
So the tweaks would be on, say, different weather conditions.
It could be weather conditions. It could also make the helicopter unstable. So he says this. So
some
loss is there. So he has to recognize that this is not a good situation, and he says, yes, this is not a good thing. We need to get this rectified. This cannot be cleared for field use.
So first they start with this, and then
so then they do this. So first they learn the theory in the class, then they come down here, they do this, and then they go and finally fly the exercise on the aircraft.
So it's very intense.
It's a very intense. So the students at any given time are preparing for the next exercise,
Right.
writing of the report of an exercise which they have already flown, and flying a third exercise. So they are concurrently doing 3 exercises at the same time.
Okay.
So the time pressure is phenomenal.
Right.
And this is a similar thing for the fixed wing. So that was for rotary wing, and we have a similar simulator for fixed wing.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things, the flying qualities which they have to assess,
Right.
and basically learn to do this when they pass out, and they have to do it actually on a real aircraft.
So that's why it's called digital
Combat simulator utilization. So they do various things, and we started using VR goggles, etc. So whatever new technologies are available,
New things are being coming in.
yes,
in that
yes,
sense.
yeah.
So you have this,
So this is what he's trying to control: stick versus control surface. So there is an optimum ratio which has to be maintained. So he's
Right.
checking, does the aircraft have it, what is good, what is bad,
Right.
and then he can use this in the real world when he goes to actual flight testing.
So this is headed by you are the one, of course.
I am overall, but this is headed by a group captain.
Right.
He is known as the OC of the Air Force Test Pilot School.
Right. Okay.
And he has about 12 instructors are with him,
Okay.
plus some support staff.
Right. And so they look for, they of course run the course.
Yes.
But they also must be tweaking the course going forward, whatever.
Yeah, so this year we've added a capsule on space, because now space is becoming big pay. Air Force is intricately involved in all space activities.
Right.
So we've added a short capsule on space, because there could be, we are already doing flight testing for ISRO. You would have seen the RLV drop,
Right.
etc. So there is a
That
space.
was with Chinook. I think.
That was dropped from the Chinook, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have added a space capsule. Then we do a 2-month course for production test pilots, which is basically who will go to BRD and HAL for testing the overall aircraft. They will not do experimental flight testing.
Right.
And we have another course for RPA testing now. RPAs, as you know, are the buzzword today.
The
So
new
there's a
one,
lot of RPAs being designed by private industry and DRDO.
Right.
So we have a RPA testing course also, where we train RPA test crew for testing of RPA systems.
But this school has also produced Rakesh Sharma's and
Yes,
Malhotra's.
all and even the 4 astronaut designates for the Gaganyaan program
Yeah.
are all graduates of this school. They have done a tenure in ASTE flight testing,
Right.
and 2 of them, as you are aware, are going to the US now to go to the ISS.
Yes.
So
Yes.
all of them are graduates of this school.
So proud alumni of the
Yes,
ST and
absolutely.
the Test Pilot School, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
This is the data analysis center. So actually data, there's a famous saying that in God we trust, everybody else must bring data.
Right.
Because without data, no flight test is complete.
Correct.
Because finally, at the end of the day, I have to prove that the system works or doesn't work with the help of data. It cannot be something subjective or something in the air.
It cannot be some esoteric or something, some instinct.
Yes. So that is why we instrument our aircraft. We record a lot of data
Right.
at 10 hertz, 20 hertz. So large number of data gets captured.
Right.
And that data is brought here by the students are taught how to use it. And then you see, this is what the data looks like. You see the number of rows and files.
Yes.
This is what the data. From the data, he converts it into a graph.
Right.
So this is the raw data. Then he refines this raw data. He takes out the kinks, etc.
Okay.
And it comes into a smooth graph like this.
Sure.
Then this is the graph which, suppose he was doing actual flight testing of a real aircraft. This is the graph that will go to the field.
Oh, okay.
So this is the graph. This is the table which will go to the field as a form of a SOP.
Right.
So the field can use this to fly the aircraft.
Ah.
So similar thing will be there for a weapon or
Sure.
for a system. So this is what comes out.
Actually, is a major, kind of. I was asking you about the record keeping and the.
Yes.
How do you pass it on to
Correct.
the field units? I think this is
Actually, the flying is just one small part of the whole thing. This data
Analyzing
analysis
it, huh.
and then breaking it down into readable stuff is what is most
something
critical.
which can be implemented.
Implemented,
practically.
yes, and understood by the layman.
Right.
And of course, we've started using things like 3D printers and all that now to make
this is a
stuff.
3D printer.
Yeah, so we've starting to use whatever newer technologies are there, so that we can create stuff which the students want to use.
So 3-dimensional models and all that. Also
We start making, yes, and for our instrumentation to put it in the cockpit, etc. We need some supports, etc. So those supports we started making them through 3D printers now. Earlier we used to make them from metal, etc. So now we start doing 3D printing. Yeah, so
I mean, that's what you're keeping pace with.
yes, technology. That's the aim.
That's
Yes.
right.
So this is the telemetry station, which is used for real-time monitoring of a trial.
Okay.
So certain trials are very critical, where I need to know in real time, is there a danger or not.
Okay.
I cannot wait for the data to be analyzed after I come
it
back.
comes back.
So in real time, the test director will sit here and he'll tell the test pilot
No,
this
when the flight
parameter
is going on.
in the flight is going on. He is in contact with the pilot
Uh-huh.
and he's saying you are likely to exceed this parameter, call it off.
Oh.
or this is not correct, please recover, come back and land, we will do it tomorrow.
I see.
So this is done. So this is, we have two such telemetry cells, one is this and one is inside.
Right.
So this was used extensively for the SARAS program, and when the SARAS program, the next Mark II comes up, we will again be using it.
Oh, so this is more crucial than even the
This
ATC.
this is more crucial than that,
the
because
ATC,
he is monitoring it in real time.
Right.
All the parameters, that instrumentation,
Correct.
one is it is getting recorded on the aircraft, but it is getting streamed in real time here.
Right.
So the test director sitting here can warn the pilot at any given time that there is a risk. So let's call off the test point and we will analyze the data and do it again.
So the test director is a
flight test engineer or a test pilot or a team sitting here.
Or a team.
Yeah. So it is a test crew, yes. And then we have another second telemetry inside.
Right.
So this is this is so this is another telemetry station, which is used. So you can see the video of the this thing. Then once he moves out, all his parameters will show up here. So he can see exactly what the pilot is seeing in the cockpit.
Sure.
And he can then advise the pilot on anything that is required.
So it's duplicated.
It's duplicated, yeah. So all his data is coming here,
Right.
and he's got radio communication with the pilot, so he can tell him that okay, everything is good, not good, or if there's a certain test point, some data has not been captured, he can tell him repeat the test point. But most important is, in case there is a problem, he can tell him in time so that we can stop the test flying and come back. So
yeah, because that's crucial. I mean, you can't be taking undue risks.
Exactly. So certain certain tests require telemetry, certain don't. So that we take a call when we are doing the presentation, when we are doing the planning of the tests. We decide whether we need telemetry or not.
And these are all very high speed.
All very high speed high data analysis computers, which can analyze a lot of data in a very short amount of time. So this is also this is an Indian company, Park Controls and Communications.
So you have obviously gradually sort of switched over to a lot of Indian.
Yes. Now it's all most of instrumentation now is all it's all procured from Indian sources.
No, so the challenge, like I asked you that time on the tarmac also, is to make sure that all kinds of aircraft go through this.
Yes,
and the telemetry is also tracked for every aircraft.
It depends on the it depends.
You said,
it depends on the complexity of the trial, the risk involved. So we do a risk analysis when we are doing the planning for the trial. And if certain risk levels are higher, then we say let's do telemetry. Otherwise, we say let's do normal instrumentation, where we analyze the data after the aircraft lands. Yes.
So it's beyond the black box.
Black box, yes. Much beyond the black box. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
So this is the museum where we have tried to capture our history, and over the years we have been lucky that a lot of veterans have donated their stuff. So this is Rupi Kapil Bhargav, his bust, the first commandant of ASTE. Yeah, so he was very, very active till the time he passed away. And he gave us his flying clothing and his overalls and his logbook. So it's always interesting, the kind of things that they've done. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. 2014.
Yeah.
But I mean, that time it must have been so time consuming.
Yes. Today is all digitized, So this is how we dropped a Prithvi warhead from the Mi-17 when they were testing the warhead. So a lot of history, and then we've had a lot of seminars over the years. Then I remember when in my last tenure here, there was a cricket match here. So Dhoni is a very keen. So he came to ASTE. So he gave us a bat with the signatures of all the players.
Oh wow!
So he
was a very prized position.
Yes. So I was given by him that time. I think there was a test match with Australia here. And we know all the various seminars we've done, flight test seminar.
This is an annual one.
No, we do it on occasions like our 25th year. Then in between we do a safety seminar. Yeah, this is the Avro I was telling you.
Right.
This is the one that unfortunately crashed in '99. This is the rotodome on top. So this is from the 90s. This photograph.
But
taken from top. Yeah. So, and then of course we have various artifacts. These are the kind of instrumentation we used when it was nice and big. Now it's all becoming smaller and smaller, digitized. So you never, you use a slide viewer. You never had projectors and also use the slide viewer.
The presentations.
Yes, so slides and all used to be there. These are the cameras sort of we used earlier. Those big cameras. Now they are lipstick cameras. You can just stick it onto the aircraft.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So. This was the last seminar in 2022 when we celebrated our golden jubilee.
Right. But this is beautifully done again.
Yeah, so this is again,
2012.
yeah, these are two
So every 10
Surya
years,
something you get different aircraft in the frame.
And these are all albums,
Yeah.
I suppose.
So this is of course the special cover which was released on the Golden Jubilee by the Army Postal Service. Yeah, so various.
Do foreigners come here and see? Or
Yeah, so in fact last year we had the Greek chief here. He came for a visit.
Right.
And UAE chief has come here.
Okay.
Next month we'll have the Brazilian chief coming. So, and then of course during Tarang Shakti we are going to get a big group of people.
The Jodhpur leg.
The Jodhpur leg. So we are, I think a large number of them are going to be, observers are going to be brought to Bangalore to see industry and ASTE, etc.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
But you still don't have a foreign component in your training.
No, so we've trained 2 production test pilots for 2 foreign countries. There is an interest for the experimental test pilot course also, but I think the modalities have to be worked out. But there is a lot of interest because, like I said, there are only 8 such schools in the world.
And so the other, non-members
exactly.
they would like to come here.
Exactly.
India has so many, what I call, alliances or friendships.
There are a lot of people who are, so I think we are open to it. But
I'm sure that decision has to be
taken at
all encompassing.
Right. This is the IJT, so the models which are given, this is. And then of course, all the various kinds of weapons we've tested over the years.
Okay.
So we've tried to capture some of them. Yeah. This is the famous, hammer dropped by LCA in the west coast.
I see.
And a fisherman recovered it.
Really?
So we got it back and put it here. So.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so we got it back and we said we put it here. He was trying to sell it in the local market.
Somebody must have noticed
it. Yeah, so various, weapons. A lot of them are not in service anymore, but just to show that
how things
this is the latest, the SAW that DRDO is making. This is the Astra, the Mark 1 already in production. And this is a MiG-21 ejection seat. So all the commandants, Sandeep sir was here. Yes.
So was Bhaduria, no?
He was not commandant. He was a test pilot. Yes. Bully sir, who was part of the DRDO reforms committee, Krishna. He's So
many of them. Chopra.
Yes, Anil Chopra. Yes, he was the commandant.
He is now very prolific writer.
Yeah, very prolific. Correct.
Many of them I have come across in various places.
Yeah.
Pateshwaram also. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But he's now in Chennai.
He's in Chennai. He's heading that Peninsula Foundation.
Exactly. And of course. Mola.
Marshal Mishra now is in IDS.
Yeah.
Right. So these are of course all the mementos given to us over the years by dignitaries and
It's I think important to retain all this and create
correct.
For inspiration also.
Yeah, and these are all the various courses over the years. Their photographs and
That's the badge.
That's the graduate badge which you get. So basically it depicts the feather, the experimental aircraft, what it means.
Right. So, beautifully done. I think because this is like you said, important institution. I mean, 8 amongst the world. I mean,
correct.
In the world, only 8.
Yeah.
He is the pioneer.
Yeah, he is Group Captain Surendan Das. Because he did it in Empire Test Flight School, UK. But he is, we consider him as the father of flight testing in AC. Because HF-24, first indigenous fighter, he did a lot of the testing.
Acha, he was given Padma Vibhushan.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Right. Nice. Excellent. Sure.
So this is so flight testing is inherently dangerous. It is so, and unfortunately over the years, we have lost test crew in accidents, testing various equipment.
Correct.
So this flight test memorial is dedicated to all of them. So their names are reflected of all the 32 people.
Onwards.
Yes. So
wow.
Initially we had a couple of these civilians before
Naturally.
who were doing the flight testing in HAL.
Correct.
And then
of course Kiran also, they had accidents.
So like Wing Commander Mola, he's who was the Commandant ASTE AVM Mola's father. His father.
I see.
Yes.
Wow, that legacy is also there.
Yes. And then
this was in 71.
71,
okay,
yes, in the Marut, yes.
Right. So actually, India was in a way, a pioneer of a.
So
If that
this
had
is
gone
what
through that Egypt thing,
yes,
had worked,
the engine and
Indian
everything had
German
worked.
engine and all that. If it had worked, we would probably have been a different aviation power.
So, that's why when we talk of, say, Atmanirbharta, if you
Right.
see, 1970s itself, we were testing Indian aircraft.
Correct.
And then in the 90s, you had the AWC, where
Right.
unfortunately in a
Correct.
crash, we lost 4 test
That's
crew.
right. Yeah.
So it's been, it's
it's
not,
been a long
it's not something
journey.
new.
Nothing new for you.
for us, for
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Air Force.
When they say, that this is a new concept,
Yes.
it's basically new concept for private
Sector, yeah. But we've been doing it, and then of course we had the unfortunate crash of the Saras
Yes.
in 2009,
Right.
and
Yeah.
the last one, of course, the Mirage 2000, which
Mirage.
passed out from
I
HAL.
know. In fact, it was here, right? Here.
Yeah, in this the same
I
runway.
remember
Yeah,
that,
yeah. Yes.
2019. I think it was just before the Aero India.
Aero
or something,
India,
yeah,
yes,
something
yes,
of the kind. I remember that. It's very
So-
unfortunate. And then, of course, you had an LCA thing.
That Jodhpur,
yeah.
yes.
First accident.
accident also. Which also I think is, I don't know, I'm not sure, but maybe due to the engine or whatever.
Whatever. So,
But
but I mean, so far it flew without any
accident-free, yes.
Was